Hello and welcome to today's training for Skype Operations Framework, specifically the scripted account provisioning for the Skype Room System's V2 devices. Let me introduce myself really quick. My name is Turgay Öngen and I'm a Senior Customer Engineer and Architect in the Skype Customer Experience and Deployment team as part of the product group. I'm also the author of the Skype Room Systems account provisioning scripts that we've just released today. And today I'll be talking about that topic in detail. Before jumping into the topic, just a really short summary about SOF. SOF is a methodology that we put together to make sure your Skype business deployments are successful. This is the first and February 2017 version of this session. If we update the materials that I will be presenting today, then we will either release a new session to discuss about what is new with the new release, or we will just update this recording to make sure that all the major updates are covered. In order to learn when we release an update or release a new material, you may subscribe to the blog posts on the SOF community site. And through the feedback channels, please continue providing feedback about what you would like to see in the upcoming releases of SOF, as well as any issues that you may face with the content we deliver. Okay, let's talk about how the accounts are provisioned for Skype Room Systems version 2 devices. First of all, let me summarize what a Skype Room System is and what is the second version of it. Just released Skype Room Systems V2 devices that are developed specifically to work with Skype for Business platform can provide immersive meeting experience. Unlike the first version, which was called Link Room System, the second version is a complete new solution that can utilize existing investments like already purchased and deployed displays and projectors in the rooms. These devices are provided at a very affordable price range and can transform every meeting room into a fully featured conferencing room. If you want to learn more about the new Skype Room Systems, we provided 2 trainings for you. The first one that you can see on the lower part of the slide discuss the technology in detail, whereas SOF meeting room solutions training, it provides guidance on how you should plan the most appropriate device based on your environment and based on your specific needs, and also the guidance around the deployment and operation aspects within your projects. As you can see, within the SOF methodology, this provisioning activity sits at the enable stage of the delivery phase. There are 3 main benefits of using such scripts for provisioning. First of all, it supports any deployment scenarios like on-premises, online, and even hybrid deployments are supported. It will help you to provision multiple accounts at once, and it will help you to do it in an error-free fashion. This version is specifically supports the Skype Room Systems version 2 accounts. It doesn't support previous Link Room Systems or the Surface Hub enablement. Although some voice components are configured with the script, enterprise voice enablement is not covered end-to-end for this initial release. So, why do we need scripted provisioning, or why do we recommend that approach? There's a number of reasons. First, it will take a lot of time when you try to manually provision and enable these user accounts, and especially you need to follow different procedures and need to take different actions for different topologies like on-premises, online, and hybrid deployments. And when you are enabling tens of user accounts, it could be very easy to miss an important step, and it could get even worse when you're working for hundreds or thousands. By using the scripted approach, the room accounts are enabled in a consistent manner and always have the same outcome. There are some other advantages too. One of them is the license assignment for online deployments. Once we assign a license to a user, many times there is a time you have to wait between that license is being assigned and the actual configuration of these assigned services. By using such a script, we may validate if the license assignment and service enablement is completed before taking any other actions per user. The script also provides a detailed report that can be used to identify any enablement and configuration errors that may arise during the execution. Okay, since the script requires connecting to a number of services, it has some specific requirements on the workstation where the script is executed. Any requirements that are listed here are already covered in the documentation, the delivery guide for the script that can be downloaded from SOF website. The delivery guide covers anything you see here in this session as well. So you need to make sure that these PowerShell modules and the tools are installed on the workstation. In terms of permissions, the credentials that you provide to the script should have the required privileges to enable and configure the services. The minimum set of privileges required for the on-premises deployments are: the account should have permission to create new users or update the already existing users in the Active Directory, and user and mailbox management rights are required on the on-premises Skype for Business and Exchange infrastructure. If you are deploying online, however, then you should be either an Office 365 global admin so that you can assign licenses for the new user accounts, or if the user creation and license assignment is already done before, you need to have at least user management administrator, Skype for Business administrator, and Exchange administrator privileges for script to perform all the required configurations. The script relies on a couple of assumptions and requirements. First of all the servers that will play a role on the enablement must be up and running, and these servers must be accessible through PowerShell remotely. You need to make sure that the workstation that the script is executed on can access those servers as well. On the licensing side for online deployments, you need to ensure that the licenses are assigned to Office 365 tenant and there are enough licenses available. For such an online scenario, if you are to work with already existing and licensed users, then the script will not assign a conflicted license, which means when a license assignment is detected on a user, then the script doesn't modify the existing assignment and use the previously assigned license instead. The success of this script is heavily dependent on the quality of the input file, where you provide the data for the enablement operation. We will be covering the input file requirements in a few minutes. All possible deployment options are supported by the script. These three scenarios listed here are different from each other in terms of where the accounts are enabled. When we say on premises, it doesn't necessarily mean that your deployment is on premises only. It could be hybrid as well. But the trick here is that within the first scenario, regardless of the deployed topology, The user account is created on the local on-premises Active Directory. Exchange mailbox is created on one of the on-premises mailbox servers, and the user account is homed on an on-premises Skype for Business pool. The second scenario is online only. This is valid if you have no Active Directory on the premises and consume all the services provided by Office 365. User is created on the Azure Active Directory, the mailbox provisioned on Exchange Online, and the user is Skype enabled on Skype for Business online service. The third and the last scenario is what we call mixed. This is not to be confused with hybrid. For this very specific scenario, your Skype for Business or Exchange deployment could either be on premises, hybrid, or online. We call it mixed because in this scenario, the user account is created on the on-premises domain controllers and replicated to Azure AD, but at least one of the Exchange or Skype for Business services are provided through Office 365. For example, if you are using Skype for Business online with federated identities through authentication by on-prem AD with ADFS, whether hybrid is or is not configured for Skype for Business, then your deployment belongs to that scenario. This could be a little bit complicated to describe, but I will try with exact differences on each scenario to make it more clear. The first and the most straightforward scenario is on-premises enablement. Remember, even if hybrid is configured for either Exchange or Skype for Business, if you are provisioning the services on the on-premises servers, then this is the scenario you belong to. Based on the data provided within the input file, one of these three scenarios are decided for each user. That means you can use a single input file with multiple accounts that fall into different scenarios. We do support that. Based on the data provided, the services that need to be connected get calculated. For this scenario, remote PowerShell connections are established to on-premises Active Directory, Skype for Business pool, and Exchange servers. The user account is created with the password provided in the input file with no password expiration. But the account is being kept disabled so that a room mailbox can be enabled on Exchange. Next step is to configure Exchange. A room mailbox is created on the default mailbox database that is configured on the Exchange server for each user. The calendar is configured for automatically processing the incoming meeting requests. Finally, mail tips are configured so that users who are trying to create a meeting request with this room are notified proactively about the meeting experience that the room can provide. Users are notified that this room has a Skype Room Systems. And you are recommended to convert the meeting request into a Skype meeting for the best experience. Within the next step, the account is Skype enabled as a new CS meeting room. And finally, the user accounts are enabled back so that the authentication can be successful and execution of the script is summarized with a detailed results table. When we say online, we provide all services including Active Directory from the Office 365 service. For such user, the script connects to Azure Active Directory, Skype for Business Online, and Exchange Online services. User account is created on Azure Active Directory and applicable Office 365 licenses are being assigned. If specified within the input file, add-on licenses are assigned here too. When you assign the Exchange Online plan, the user mailbox is provisioned automatically by Office 365. Therefore, The script doesn't even try to create a new mailbox. Instead, it converts the already provisioned mailbox to a room mailbox that can be seen as resource mailbox on the Exchange Online Admin Center. Calendar processing and mail tips are configured as similar to the previous scenario, but this time on Exchange Online. User is Skype enabled on online, and finally the configuration and enablement report is presented to the admin. For the last scenario, we need to make all necessary connections to both on-premises and online service. Within this scenario, user account is created on the on-premises Active Directory domain controllers, and if hybrid is configured on either Skype for Business or Exchange, then the user account is configured for hybrid. After all the changes are performed on the on-prem side, the script pauses and waits for directory synchronization to Office 365 to complete. At this point, you can either stop the script execution and rerun the script with the same parameters and same input file after the synchronization is complete. If you don't want to wait for the next synchronization cycle, then you can trigger the sync cycle manually and continue. If some services are to be provided by Office 365, then within the scenario, the required license is assigned on Office 365, and rest of the enablement and configuration activities are performed as similar to the previous scenarios. When it comes to the licensing part, the script will try to make the process easy and assign the richest option out of the available licenses. If the tenant has both E3 and E5, and there is enough license available, of course, then E5 will take precedence for the assignment. Otherwise, an E3 license will be assigned to the user account. This is the exact same logic that we put together for the user enablement and migration scripts as well. There are two additional important notes here. First of all, the license assignment requires Office 365 global admin privileges. And whether it is E3 or E5, the user will be activated for all the workloads under that license suite, like SharePoint Online and Yammer Enterprise and so on. Also, there might be a couple of reasons why you may want to skip that section. These are: if you don't want to execute script with Office 365 global admin account, or if you don't want to assign an E5 license when both E3 and E5 is available, or finally, if you want to activate just the required set of workloads instead of everything like SharePoint Online and Yammer, then you may create and synchronize the users and assign licenses before the script is executed, so the script can reuse the existing license. With this approach, the script will reuse the existing users and license assignment and will not try to modify your configuration. So let's have a quick walk through the script preparation and execution steps. First of all, the provisioning script requires an input file with the details of the user accounts to be enabled. Remember the three scenarios we discussed before. A single input file can include multiple users that fall into different deployment scenarios. Some of the values are required in the input file, whereas some are optional depending on the scenario. User principal name, display name, and the location for the three main services, and these are Active Directory, Skype for Business, and Exchange, are always mandatory. The location implies where the account should be enabled, either online or on premises. Based on these location attributes, one of the three scenarios are calculated for each user account in the input file. There are some Boolean parameters like enable cloud PBX or PSTN conferencing. These are applicable to and mandatory only if the Skype for Business location is set to online. The input file should be in a CSV format. As you see on the example, you may use different provisioning scenarios within a single input file. On-premises is where the location attributes of all three services are set to on-premises: AD, Skype for Business, and Exchange. Online is obvious. Everything's set to online. Mixed is when the AD location is set to on-premises, whereas at the same time, either Exchange location or Skype for Business location or both are set to online. Anyway, a sample file that includes some examples to all these three scenarios are provided with the script download on SOF website's download section. You'll need to provide a number of parameters when executing the script. Which parameters are mandatory or optional? This will be based on the user scenarios that you define within the input file. Only file name is required at minimum, and this is where you specify the input file itself. All other parameters are optional, and if not provided with the command line, they will be asked through the script execution only if necessary. The Office 365 admin username is the administrator account for your Office 365 tenant that will be used to assign license and to provision services. On-premises admin username is the credentials required to create user accounts on the local domain controllers and to connect to on-premises Exchange and Skype for Business service through PowerShell routing. On-premises FQDNs are the FQDNs for the internal web service here as to connect to. The on-premises Active Directory OU path is used to define in which organizational unit the new user account should be created. If not provided, the default users container will be used instead. If your input file contains only the existing users, then you do not need to provide the OU path as a parameter, as the existing accounts will be provisioned wherever they are located. Password provisioning is an optional Boolean parameter that specifies whether the script should be waiting for the propagation when a new Office 365 license is provisioned. If not provided, this is true by default. Finally, as the name implies, the verbose log file name and results file name are to define the log and result output files. By default, these two files are created in the PowerShell execution directory with the name of verbose output log and results CSV. Once you are ready with your input file and the required parameters, you can execute the script and start the provisioning right away. The script should either be executed from a folder within the currently logged on user's profile, like desktop, or should be run on an elevated PowerShell window so that the log and results files can be created within the same directory. So let's go through sample execution together. As I said earlier, the required script parameters are different for on-premise and mixed provisioning scenarios. You can either provide the parameters as command line parameters, or the script will ask any required or missing ones if needed. But at minimum, file name and on-premise OU path is recommended. Make sure that the input file structure is correct. If not, there are a couple of validation activities performed to make sure that you are providing a correct file. But just to make sure that the operation is smooth and successful, make sure that you double check the structure and the content of the input file before running the script. When the script starts to execute, it will validate the input file and calculate which services should it connect based on the input file you provided, and then ask for the required credentials. Just an example of some missing parameters. If the FQDN of the on-premises servers are needed but somehow not provided as a command line parameter, then you will be asked to do so. Any input that requires your intervention will be colored in yellow to get your attention. The connections to the required services will be established, and if any of these connections fail, then the script will stop with the detailed error message. The first step is to create Active Directory users. If for any reason you don't want to provide a user password in the input file for the new accounts, then you will be asked to provide that password here. One thing to notice here, if you provide the password within the input file, then you can assign different passwords for each user account. But if you do it here during the script execution, then all the accounts with no passwords in the input file will be assigned with the exact same passwords. Now, the user accounts that are created will be listed on the screen. If there is an already existing user, you will see that with a status of already exists, not modified, colored in yellow. And it will tell you whether the user account is created on the Azure Active Directory or on the on-premises domain controllers as well. If some accounts are to be configured in hybrid mode, then only those accounts will be enabled for like remote mailbox and other required configurations, so that the on-premises Active Directory is populated with all required attributes to notify that the user's Exchange mailbox or Skype for Business Room account are hosted online. If there are any user accounts during the execution that are created in on-prem AD, but the rest of the services should be provisioned online, then these users are required to be replicated to Office 365. At this moment, the script will pause and wait for your input to continue when all the accounts are synchronized to Office 365. Anyway, you'll have two options here. First, manually trigger the synchronization by using the start AD sync cycle commandlet and continue after the replication is completed. Or you may quit the script execution and rerun the script with the same parameters and input file once the replication is ready. Depending on the number of changes required to be synchronized, this may take from a couple of minutes to some hours. That's why we have provided the mechanism to stop the script and rerun the same process later. After the synchronization is completed and you tell the script to continue, it will start assigning licenses for the new accounts. Just a reminder here, these screenshots are showing what you will see if you provide an input file that covers all three provisioning scenarios. But if your scenario is only one of these three, you will probably not see some of these steps that are unapplicable to your scenario. Anyway, after the license assignment is completed, a 5 minutes pause will wait for license propagation to complete. Next step is to create room mailboxes on Exchange. For on-premises scenario, the script creates the user mailboxes first, and then convert each user mailbox into a room mailbox after that. However, for Exchange Online, there is no need to create a mailbox, because when the license is assigned, a new Exchange mailbox is provisioned automatically by Office 365 backend. All we need to do is just convert these mailboxes into the room mailboxes. After the mailboxes are ready, they should be configured to accept all the meeting requests automatically, so that when you invite a room into the meeting invite is accepted or declined automatically depending on the room's availability. At this moment, Exchange mail tips are configured as well. Mail tips are really valuable to increase adoption and usage of the solution, as users can be notified proactively about the capabilities of the room. Basically, when a user is trying to book a room, they will be notified that this room is Skype enabled, and it is recommended to make or convert this invitation to a Skype meeting to get benefit of the technology investment that you're doing. Then the user accounts are enabled as Skype meeting rooms, whether online or on premises. And Active Directory user accounts are enabled back to support authentication needs. After the script completes all the necessary configurations, it will report a detailed status of each section. You can easily see whether the mailbox is created, or if the calendar processing is configured successfully, and so on. A much readable version of the same table can be found in the results CSV file that is specified with a parameter. Any enablement or configuration error for a specific user, these kind of errors are represented in these results as well. Finally, all open remote PowerShell sessions are closed and cleaned up, and the script completes execution. After the changes that are performed on the Office 365 platform, that means any user that are provisioned online are only functional after the next directory synchronization happens. So you can just rerun the start AD sync cycle command to trigger that replication and start using the new accounts immediately. Otherwise, you need to wait for a couple of minutes for the next replication cycle. You can use the log file for troubleshooting when something goes wrong, or when a specific action is failed. The verbose log file will detail the steps that are being executed, as well as configuration information prior to making any changes. You can also run the script with verbose parameter, which dumps all the verbose logging onto the screen for real-time troubleshooting purposes. If you need more assistance on troubleshooting the script, or provide feedback, or submit any bugs that you may face with, please use the SOF community to reach back to us. So we will be more than happy to work on improving anything we already released. For the next steps, after watching this session's recording, please go to SOF website and download the materials that we have been discussing here. We provide a delivery guide where you can find all the details and any required information to successfully provision your room system accounts. And work with the sample input file and modify it against your needs after you have identified all the rooms. Always, we recommend you to test and validate the output before configuring anything at scale. So please test the script for a small number of test accounts and then start enabling rest of the rooms only if the test results are good to go. Finally, the resources. You can watch the 2 recordings listed here where you can learn about the Skype Room Systems technology and the SOF activities that you need to plan and execute for a successful deployment, usage, and adoption. With that, I'd like to thank you for spending your time watching this recording and hope that we will meet with some new releases in the near future. Thank you.